I want to take you back to when my husband and I graduated from medical school. We had a baby. We both were med students. We had over $500,000 in student loan debt between us. That's $500,000. And you're like, duh, that's what it costs, right? This is not big news, not at all. But what I do remember is my classmates were in full emergency mode. We had to pay this down immediately. Every extra dollar goes to this. Let's do moonlighting. Let's do expert witness. Let's do all these side hustles. Let's do real estate. We got to pay this loan off. And listen, I'll tell you, I understood the impulse. I was like, oh my gosh, we have a lot to pay off. We should start right away. It felt like a crisis, something you have to pay back as fast as humanly possible. But my husband he had a very interesting thought. He said, let's just do the math on this. And the math told a very different story. So we had our student loans debt around, I think, 1 or 2% interest. The mortgage was closer to like 7% interest. And then we had vehicles that were 10% interest, something along these lines. And so the question was, which debt in what order? What are we going to do with like that? That was really the question. How do we take our small amount of resident salary? Where do we prioritize it? And when we ran the numbers, it really was very clear. Pay the minimum on the lowest interest loans, the student loan debt, attack the high interest debt first. And that was our whole strategy. And here's what happened. I want to build on this a little bit. Once I understood the math behind it, that we make more money by paying the bare minimum on a low interest loan and take all that extra money we saved and attack the high interest loan. Once I understood that, then my mindset completely changed around this debt. I went from being like, oh my gosh, I'm crippled, I'm crushed by this debt, I can barely breathe, to my goal is to die before this is paid off. Like I want to go to my grave on the tombstone. She never paid back her med school debt. That was what I thought about it. It's like, I don't want to sacrifice for this privilege of becoming a doctor and then serving in all these ways. No, 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 no. I don't want to pay this back was my goal. Now, lo and behold, no one could have predicted this. But after the pandemic, physician loans became eligible for forgiveness. So my friends who had sacrificed for decades, putting off the babies, the house, getting married, what happened to them? Great, they paid off $500,000 in debt, but they didn't get any money back. Whereas my husband and I, we paid the minimum, we dragged it out. We kept the $500,000 essentially, and the balance disappeared overnight. I mean, I feel like it's so terribly unfair for my friends. Like they could have had such a better life. Those decades of sacrificing, right? They could have had their babies when they were younger. They could have been driving a nicer car. The whole idea of living like a med student till your debt is paid off. Why? So this episode is about the math debt decision because understanding the math is actually worth millions, and it's very, very simple math. You don't have to have a conversation with your boss to get a 100K raise from this kind of math. Are you ready? Math is very simple. So I want you to imagine you have two cookie jars in front of you. You have $2,000 this month. You have to decide where you're going to put this money. Jar one is your student loan debt. It has a very low interest rate, it's 2%. Every dollar you put in the jar saves you 2 cents per dollar per year. So if you put all your $2,000 in this jar, you're going to save $40 this year. That's it, $40. You've paid your loan down by $2,000. Amazing, but you're only saving $40. Now, jar two is your investment jar. And the stock market historically grows about 7%. If you just keep it in there, and it will grow 7%. So if you put your $2,000 in the stock market, you're going to earn $140 this year. It's $100 more. And then you compound this year after year after year. Let's stretch this out in 10 years. You stretch it out in 10 years of putting $2,000 into your student loan debt, you'll save $27,000 in interest. 10 years of putting $2,000 a month into your stock market portfolio, you'll create $345,000. Let me just say that again because you have to hear this. 10 years of aggressively paying down your student loan debt, jar one, 2% interest, low interest loan, you save $27,000 in interest. 10 years of putting $2,000 a month into the stock market creates $345,000. Same $2,000. Do you want $27,000 saved or do you want to create $345,000 saved? You want the more money. You want $345,000 because guess what? When you have $345,000, you can pay off that $27,000 in interest fast. If you really, really, really care about paying down your debt, make more money first. When you have more money, you'll pay down all the debt faster. It's simple math, but so many of us weren't raised with how do you do money this way. And so we wind up working years longer than the men, the white men in our group. We work so much harder because we're paying off the loans in a totally backward way. You want to pay off your loans. How you want to pay them off is highest interest payoff first. Let your pay minimums on your lowest interest loans. Same $2,000, completely different income. $27,000 versus $345,000. That is insane. And that's the math of it. And that's why the white men in our groups are retiring decades earlier because they're being very careful about their money. And I want you to also have the same thing. Retire decades earlier, 100K raise without ever talking to your boss. So your loan jar grows your money slowly because the interest rate is tiny. Your investment jar grows your money faster because the return is higher. Why would you ever keep filling a slow jar when the fast jar is sitting right there earning more money? Earn more money, pay off your debt that way. So here's what it looks like when you flip it. If your debt is like, let's say 8%, a high interest mortgage, credit cards, anything like that, jar, or let's say many of us, if you have a premium credit card, it might be 25% interest. All of a sudden, jar one, your debt jar, is the priority to pay off. Because now paying off that debt saves you as much as investing it would earn you, like way more, actually, way more. You want to just in general, the rule is attack the expensive debt first, let the cheap debt ride. If your interest rate on your credit card is $25,000, you must pay off that debt first at all costs. Let all the minimums ride, pay minimums on everything else, get the 25% interest rate credit card paid off first. The rule is simple. If your loan interest rate is lower than what your investments could earn, pay the minimum and invest the rest. One more thing to say out loud, just to be very clear, your student loan, this is what I read. I'm not an accountant and I'm not a lawyer, so please keep that in mind. But this is what I did in my research. Your student loans die when you die. Poof. Okay, they're gone. They don't go to your kids. They don't go to your husband. They just go away. They vanish. So that feeling of panic every time you see a balance, it's not the math talking. It's a story medicine told you about what debt means to you. It doesn't mean anything about you. It's just a jar. You get to choose which one to fill, which one to empty. When you die, the jars go away. So here's a really important mindset shift. And this is the 100K shift. And how I know this is I had this shift. My thought about it was in med school before my husband taught me this lesson was, oh my gosh, debt is crippling. It's suffocating. I can't hardly breathe. It means I'm behind. I'm irresponsible. It means I'm not okay until this number is gone. And where we learn the story is we understand our beloved parents, like especially if you're the first in your family to become a doctor, no one in your family understands that $500,000 in loan debt is normal. Like that is okay to like very few people in the world. Rich people will understand that, but people who are struggling, who are immigrants, who are here, who are blue collar workers are not going to understand that. And it's nothing wrong with them, but that is scary. If you've never seen that before, it is scary. Wealthy people know that that number is actually okay because debt is a tool. So we love our family. We love our family. I was the first doctor. I don't think I told anyone this. I don't even tell my mom. I knew it would just freak her out. And it's okay that they don't understand. I would be scared too. If I never saw that number before, I would be scared. So we love our family, but we also understand we get these money scary stories from a different generation. If you ask physicians today, 2026, what is the average debt? Most doctors will tell you it's in hundreds of thousands of dollars. Without blinking an eye, this is not news. So here's what I want to help you with the mind shift with around debt. Debt is not a crisis. Debt is a tool. And here's a really great example. Listen, whatever your feelings with Amazon.com, just listen to me. Amazon.com wasn't profitable until almost a decade after it had been out. It was in debt for almost 10 years. And Steve Bezos rode that debt like it was his job. He wasn't interested in the short-term gains. He wasn't interested in paying everything off immediately like it's a crisis. He prioritized growth, even if it meant operating a loss year after year after year, because he knew what the long-term benefit would be. It wasn't until 2003, almost a full decade after launching, that Amazon turned its first profit. Everyone around him was nervous. Wall Street was like, this is a crazy business model. He kept going because he understood that debt wasn't the problem. Debt was a tool, debt was a vehicle. And it's the same for us. Our med student loans are not a problem. They're a vehicle, they're a tool. You can substitute for any debt you have, mortgage debt, house loan debt, car debt, whatever, personal financing debts, home remodeling debts, credit card. You took on that debt because you were making a bet on yourself and you knew the investment would pay back and then some for the rest of your career. It's responsible. It's what smart people do. So here's a shift. Instead of going from debt is crippling, here's what we teach. Debt is a tool, debt is a vehicle. Debt creates money. Used wisely, debt will make you rich. And then when you're rich, you can pay down all that debt. Go from the shift is I need to pay this off as fast as possible because it's an emergency to I prioritize whatever makes me the most money overall. I prioritize whatever makes me the most money overall. Not what eliminates the scary numbers fastest, but you realize the numbers aren't scary to begin with. They're just numbers. They're not going to reach out of the computer and grab you and suffocate you at night. They're just numbers. They're a tool, they're a vehicle. So choose whatever grows your wealth over time. Sometimes that's going to mean, for sure, going to mean paying off that 25% credit card debt aggressively. Sometimes, if you have a 2% student loan sitting next to a 7% investment return, it means letting the debt ride on your loan and putting your money elsewhere, or will work harder for you in the stock market. So at the end of the 10 years, you have $345,000 to pay off this $27,000 interest loan. You're not running from debt, you're managing money. And there really is an enormous difference. You're not running from debt, you're managing money. Running from debt is based on fear. Managing your money is based on strategy. And strategy, as it turns out, is worth millions of dollars. Managing money makes you wealthy, generational wealth. It makes your kids wealthy too. And then you can pay down the debt even faster. So the forgiveness piece, loan forgiveness programs still exist. It's not too late, y'all. Go and check and make sure you check to see if you qualify. Do that like right now this week. Go to the federal student aid website and look to see what you're eligible for. There are programs tied to working in nonprofit hospital systems, underserved areas, other qualifying employers. Many physicians are already working in exactly these settings and have no idea they qualify. I'll let you know, how many women I've coached who are like, I have to stay in this miserable job because I have 8 more years to pay off this loan. As if in 8 years it may not be around, right? I'm going to sign up to be miserable for 8 years, damage my mental health, ruin my marriage, gain 100 pounds for a thing that might not even happen in 8 years. Or how many people, and I've heard say, well, I just have to stay. This boss is horrible, but I need to outlive her so that I get my loan paid off. It is not worth it to stay in a terrible job. It damages your mental health and your marriage and your body, ruins your health to have loans forgiven. No. Put money in the stock market, get rich in the stock market, then pay off those loans. That's what I'll recommend 100% of the time. So I want to say though, this why I'm tying this in is because a lot of chairs or bosses know about this student loan forgiveness, and their thought can be, well, I have you and I can be as terrible to you as I want to because you need your loans forgiven. And this power dynamic can be really unhealthy for you. In my situation, I was 6 months from the cutoff. 6 months. And you could say, well, just put up with this terrible situation, this terrible boss for 6 more months. And I just said, no, my mental health is worth more than that. I will go make the money I need and pay this off. I'd rather pay this debt off than work for this horrible woman. Turns out, even I left 6 months earlier, we went to the federal student aid. We made some phone calls. We asked some questions. I did qualify and they were forgiven. They wound up counting my residency. I went to UT Southwestern Parkland Hospital, underserved area. Those 4 years counted. Of course they should have. My dad disappeared overnight. All that money stayed with me and my family and my babies. Definitely look into this. The bigger point, everything I just described to you, the math, the JAR strategy, the investment math, the forgiveness programs, none of it required me to pick up an extra shift. Didn't have to moonlight, didn't have to do expert witness. None of it required a difficult conversation with my department chair. I didn't have to put in hundreds of thousands of dollars of capital for an Airbnb or real estate. Didn't have to worry about bed bugs and busted pipes in the middle of the night. Didn't have to hire a manager to manage a property. None of it required me to negotiate or ask for anything from anyone. It just required me to think differently about money than how medicine taught me to think about it. Medicine, society, maybe our families taught us to think debt as this moral failure, to see carrying loans evidences we're doing something wrong. We have to keep sacrificing in the present to eliminate that number as fast as possible, regardless if that makes sense or not. It's not the math. We don't have to be ashamed of it. Shame is an incredibly expensive financial advisor. It'll have you making terrible decisions that always come back to you working more. Debt is a tool, it is a vehicle for wealth. If you use it wisely, it will make you millions of dollars and you can pay off the debt quickly. The reframe from I must eliminate all debt as fast as possible to I will deploy every dollar at its highest possible return. That, my friend, is worth millions. This is what I mean when I say you can get a 100K raise without ever talking to your boss. The raise is already sitting inside your financial decisions, waiting for you to make a different choice. You don't need permission. You don't need to do your time. You don't need to wait 5 to 10 years. You don't need to wait for promotion or partnership. You don't need to negotiate. You just need a strategy that works for you. And now you have it. If this is the kind of thinking that's new to you, I want you to come to my free July 3-day, 3-part masterclass about how to get you to part-time hours at your full-time doctor pay in under 90 days. At the end of the training, we're going to open doors to Next Level Freedom, my lifetime physician coaching program with an unprecedented bonus bundle we've never offered before. You are not going to want to miss it. The invitation goes to the email list, so you better make sure you're on my email list, y'all. Go right now to the link in bio. Make sure you're on the email list. If you're like, no, 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 I cannot wait to the end of July, you can get into Next Level Freedom this week. Just book a free sales call. I'd love to get you in. And if this episode helped you, please share it with all of your best friends because this is how we make the planet better. See you the next time. Bye, everyone.